entrepreneurs. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started the Telling It Like It Is Facebook Live. It is live. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. If you're watching this after the fact, we do respond to any questions that are put into the comments section. I'm extremely excited about today's guest, Colleen Henderson, the founder of Perfect Pitch. Colleen, thank you for joining me, and how are you today?
Thank you, Jade, for having me on. This is exciting. It's been a long time since I've been live, so I'm doing well. Just full disclosure, I do have a cat in the house, so Dash might make an appearance.
Well, the thing about animals right now is they are actually encouraged to make appearances, I'm told. So if there's a dog and cat fight that breaks out in my house, so be it. We just work through it.
You pay for the story, right? So there you go.
Exactly. It is live. It is authentic, and I'm sure if something happens, we're not the first ones on live right now to have a little animal distraction.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
I know. Oh, I'm so excited. I know you and I were introduced. I like talking about networking and how we met. Tom Morin introduced us, and then we met for coffee down in Southeast Calgary here. And I'm so happy that you agreed to come on and share your knowledge with us.
Yeah, thank you. It was exciting. Tom's a fantastic speaker and a recently published author, so I'm really excited for him because I've been working with him on public speaking for a little while. And anyway, yeah, it's great to be connected, and I'm thrilled to be talking about storytelling in business, especially right now.
Oh, absolutely. And full disclosure too, Tom is actually on next week to help promote his book. So there's an extra little plug for Tom.
Yeah. It's a wonderful book.
Absolutely. So I'll do a brief introductions and then we will get into it. So Colleen is a founder of Perfect Pitch Consulting Group, which is a storytelling company. They help companies craft, tell, and captivate stories about why they exist. They help their sales teams become memorable storytellers who listen and who move their listeners to take action. So I know you just mentioned that a couple seconds ago, especially right now. So let's touch on that. Why do companies need storytelling right now?
I think right now we are in a state of, mass prolonged uncertainty. And if there's anything human beings hate, it's ambiguity. We don't know any of us, we can make predictions. We can think about what we want the future to look like, and people talk about going back to normal. Well, what does that even look like? And we're consuming news and social media to try to get anything concrete. So at work, the last thing we want is more ambiguity. And frankly, businesses have been plagued by using corporate jargon, disconnected ideas. I was guilty of this myself when I worked for a big company years ago. I put a guy to sleep during a presentation because I wasn't telling a story, and the minute that happens, we try to make one up. We hate ambiguity. So I think businesses have a choice right now. They're either going to use really good storytelling skills to give their employees, their investors, their customers that concrete feeling, that certainty, as much certainty as we can, or they'll continue with their vague language and corporate jargon and disconnected ideas, and people will make up the story themselves. And that's why I think more than ever, I would love to see companies really hone their storytelling skills.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, storytelling is something that's so important, and I'll probably say this a couple times, over our interview, is if you're not in control of your own story, someone else is, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know, storytelling is a word that gets thrown a lot, around by a lot of people, and people say, "Oh yeah, I'm good at it. I tell my own story. We're great." I mean, it's not easy, as you mentioned about your little, putting a guy to sleep, to tell your story in a way that people want to listen. So is there anything that you can share to help companies improve their storytelling efforts?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of a buzzword right now, for sure. What I realized, shortly after that horrific presentation experience I had years ago.
You're being hard on yourself.
Well, it was pretty embarrassing. It's funny now, but the thing is, if it had never happened, I wouldn't have pushed myself to figure out, well, how could I do a better business presentation? Well, I'm a journalism grad, And what I realized was that what I had learned at journalism school had more to do with good presentations or any communications than what I was seeing modeled at work. Communicators love to get to the solution. They love to say, we're doing this and it's so great and it'll do this and this and this, and feature dump or solution dump. And you just need to back that up a little bit and start by describing in a concrete way the problem you're solving first. Get us on board with the problem and then talk about the solution. So that's the first tip. And the second tip is learn how to make your ideas really concrete so that we can see them in our heads. And there's some really good storytelling devices that you can use in your language. You use them at the dinner table and at the pub and by the water cooler. We're not at the water cooler anymore. We're all on Zoom calls. So you use them, in those chit chat, relaxed conversational moments. But when it becomes more formal at work, we tend to forget to use them. And so, or we somehow think they don't apply. So I would say pay attention to how you talk conversationally and use that, So those are the two tips I would say right away people could start using to be better storytellers. Problem, then solution, and listen to yourself in casual conversation and do that.
No, those are great tips, and again, I'm talking with Colleen Henderson, storyteller from Perfect Pitch. You can click on her website in the comment sections; it'll take you right there. I also want to kind of get your opinion on right now with everybody at home. There are so many people producing content, and everyone just was almost like thrown into it, saying, "Here we go." And I've talked to well over 50 entrepreneurs and small businesses, and a lot of them are coming up to me saying, man, I'm doing all this and I'm not getting any views. I'm not having any action on it. And I'm not having any traction with anything that I'm doing. And I tell them, it's obviously this is a long-term process. You've got to start. People aren't used to seeing you, produce content, whether it doesn't matter if it's live video or posts or whatever it is. I encourage them to keep it up and saying, okay, even when we get to the PC post-COVID, you better keep this up because it is very important for your storytelling. So is that something you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think there's always been a ton of content out there right now, and probably there's even more right now. In terms of what sticks and what doesn't, it's usually the stories that move you. So the moments in your own day-to-day that really have a big impact on you. If you can share that in the most authentic, don't do too much editing, just share it in as vulnerable and authentic a way as you can. Chances are it's going to hit with somebody else. I post stuff all the time, and if I reshare an article or say, hey, this is great, I get maybe 100 views. But the minute I share a story about something that happened to me, I'll give you an example. My son and I called an Uber, which is so foreign. It sounds like a whole other world. But anyway, my son and I called an Uber. We were going to get my car and we were going to go for frozen yogurt on the way. The Uber driver picked us up. He had his girlfriend in the car, and they were both from Taiwan, and we were chatting the whole way up to the northeast of Calgary. And we decided to all have frozen yogurt together. And then they continued and took us to the car. And it was just this wonderful moment. And I said, this could never have happened in a taxi ever. Like, this is the magic of Uber. So I wrote about it and posted a little selfie that we had taken at Menchie's yogurt place, and 9,000 views. It had nothing to do with my business. But there's something universal about the story that told. So I would say to your clients, really pay attention to the things that move you over the course of the day, that really touch you, and share that. And, and chances are some people are going to connect with it.
No, I agree. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I chose Facebook Live to do my telling it like it is rather than a podcast. It's authentic. And we talked about it before. You know what? Maybe you have my cell number, and if something happens with the sound, we pick it up and continue. That's kind of small businesses. And I definitely agree with you when it comes to what you're sharing. It's not all about me, or Jade Alberts Consulting or peer guidance or whatever it may be. Right. I mean, even this morning I saw an unbelievable article about London Drugs talking about giving shelf space to local businesses around Western Canada. And I thought that was absolutely outstanding. Here's a big Western Canadian based company that is competing against small businesses. But you know what? To help small businesses, they are going to be donating shelf space to help them out, which I thought, and that'll probably be one of my biggest views as well, because again, it's something so authentic that a company is doing to help people in this time, and it doesn't always have to be about you.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, it's similar to what I said before. We want to jump to the solution. I'm doing this and it's great and this is why. And the problem is people want to connect based on values and beliefs, and not necessarily, and then the solution will come. You'll get to talk about all the great things you're doing, but that's not how we connect and build trust in the first place. So an Uber story is going to get them action. Just don't go and try and make it up. Like it has to be authentic. So.
Isn't that we've been seeing a few? I guess. Well, I'm not the hugest fan of influencers. We'll call them, get busted for taking fake photos and photoshopping themselves into places, and it's just like, it's one of the reasons why I don't like them. But again, it's all about authenticity, and it's something that is so important that, and we talked a little bit about it before. A lot of people don't feel comfortable getting in front of the camera, and I mean, I wouldn't mind maybe let's talk about that a little bit. Do you have any tips for somebody to get in front of the camera themselves, feeling, to get to that comfort level?
So generally, I always coach presentation clients, and Abigail and I both do this in the business, is like, you got to shut down your mental chatter that's all about you. I'm nervous, my cheeks are turning red, my hands are shaking, my voice is shaky. It's me. And so if you can just force yourself to think about them, they need my stories today because they need me to be energetic because they, and just focus on the audience, you can often get out of that mental chatter. It usually only takes a few minutes. In Zoom calls, now we're on video all the time. And people who typically would never, sign up for a live television interview are basically doing live television interviews all day. And that's exhausting for somebody who doesn't want to be the center of attention. So one little tip that was given to me by my colleague, Jeff Coulard, and I love it, is you can hide your self view on Zoom. So don't turn your video off. People still want to see you to create connection, but to reduce your own feeling of self-conscious and a little distracted, just go into the top right-hand corner of your Zoom window and hide your self view. And I think then you can relax and become a little bit more of a casual conversational storyteller as well.
No, that's interesting. I think that's probably the neatest tip I have heard in the last 5 or 6 weeks, where I think you're bang on. Looking at yourself is quite weird.
Yeah, well, when Jeff said that, I thought, well, that makes sense. We're not sitting around boardroom tables with big mirrors in front of us. I mean, I'd love to meet the person who does that, But so I did it. I ran my first virtual storytelling workshop on Friday morning with a little startup out of Chicago. And there were 5 of us on the call. And this is normally a session I would do live in a boardroom, Post-its and Sharpies, and we learn about story, and then we start crafting and doing the hard work of building these corporate stories. I was really nervous to do this in a virtual environment. I practiced and rehearsed, but I didn't know really it wasn't going to be the same. And I did give them that tip right at the start. I told everybody, shut down your self view. Hide your self view. But we spent 3 hours and it flew by. And so I think the virtual environment has a ton of opportunity. And even I'm rethinking my assumptions about what I can and can't do in a really high energy, interactive virtual learning environment. Friday was great. And we got 2 corporate stories built that they can use on their website or use in conversation or however they want to use them. We got that work done, and we all showed up with these. So my desk was covered, and everybody had to write stuff down. So it was good. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad it went over well. And I guess if I had one tip, I know there's, especially for selfie videos or things along those lines, there's some really good teleprompter apps. I use the Joe Allen one, and again, you can put your comments in there, and it's kind of scrolls down the side, so you're not really looking at yourself in the camera. You're looking at the words, and it makes yourself feel comfortable, and you're able to scroll and read, and again, it's that comfort level to eventually get there where you probably don't need it. And you're able just to pick up your camera and away you go.
I think it's so interesting because I think a lot of these, hesitations, I know a lot of this fear of getting up there and speaking, whether it's in this environment or up on stage, really does come from this unrealistic belief that somehow we need to be perfect up there. We can never stumble for our words or say the wrong thing and say, back it up and say the right thing. I was doing a keynote one year and I was talking about a well-known CEO who does this with his hands a lot. And I was telling the story and I said, and he goes like this and throws his hands away. And then I stopped and I said, he doesn't throw his hands away. That's weird. And it's just like, you're going to mess up. But, that's exactly what creates a really human, fun moment. We don't connect with perfection. We connect with human beings. And I think we do put this unrealistic expectation on ourselves that we somehow have to be perfect. And that leads to a lot of these insecurities about speaking and being the center of attention.
I agree. I totally agree with that statement. And it is. And again, Facebook Live, I say, I say, that's part of me as a person, a part of me as an individual. I don't want that edited out. You get the Jade Alberts, and there's only one of them. I for the world's sake, I hope. But that's what you get. So
or the cat meowing. Here's Dash.
There he is.
Who's going to show up?
He's black, just like our cat.
Oh, do you have a black cat?
We do, sitting in the sun right there. And our black dog is sitting.
They like the sun. Here he goes. He'll just do the tail. It'll go right by. There we go. But it's interesting because even before this conversation, I was nervous. And I think nerves are a good thing too. People often assume that they shouldn't feel nervous. It's only them or it's somehow, it means a bad thing. And we always say to our clients, it just means that you care about the outcome. You care about what you're doing. And when that happens, your brain has a very, primitive response, which is to fire adrenaline into your body and prepare you for the fight or the flight. And it doesn't feel great. But if you can accept that, hey, this is normal and it just means that I care about what I'm doing, it reduces a lot of that anxiety as well.
No, absolutely. 100% agree. Well, let's talk about Perfect Pitch a little bit and yourself. You're writing a book. How is that going?
I'm writing a book. So it's all about storytelling and business. There's a very wonderful model that I have in the book that is going to make it super easy for anybody at work to figure out what story to tell and when and how to do it. So I'm in a rewrite right now. So I submitted the first draft and damn, they didn't say, oh, it's wonderful. We love it just the way it is. So I'm doing the rewrite and that's coming along. So I'm hoping to have a final version done in the next month. And then we'll move into the publication of that. And that's really exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody that can write a book has the utmost respect from me. It's something that I thought about, I talked about, I could never do that's for sure. So congratulations on getting it to where it is now. And I'm super excited. Is there, if you're going to have a perfect world, let's say, when would it be released?
I would love it to come out sometime this fall. If we can move that fast, then that would be ideal. A lot that's actually riding on me right now and how quickly I can get the rewrite done. So yeah.
Well, that is awesome. And obviously we'll have to have you kind of on and talk about the book and promote the book.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess other than the book, what is next for yourself and the Perfect Pitch group?
Well, I alluded to it by talking about the session I did on Friday morning with this group out of Chicago. So years ago, I had a big company we were working with. They had people scattered all over North America, and they wanted to do a 2-day presentation skills program. And the learning and development manager said to me, "I'm not flying everybody to one spot, so you have to do this online." And I was like, "You can't do that online." She dragged me kicking and screaming into it. And we did it, and it went well, but we didn't embrace virtual. We still thought of ourselves as 100% live classroom training. Well, that has changed. If COVID has done anything with Perfect Pitch, it's sort of accelerated this recognition that this could very well be a big part of the new normal, and we're embracing that. So we're working on 3 virtual workshops. I refuse to call them webinars because they are far more interactive than that. We're working on 3 virtual workshops right now that we're rolling out, and we'll see where that goes. We still love being in the classroom. There's nothing, we love being with people. I think the technology now gets pretty darn close to that, and that's really exciting.
No, I cannot agree with you more. I mean, face to face is by far the best way to communicate, and in my opinion, it always will be.
Yeah.
Just especially when people feel more comfortable in it rather than, I mean, that was a great tip of turning your self view off. But yeah. I think we will get there, but I really do think that a lot of people will realize that virtual isn't that bad, whether it be working from home, doing things. Salespeople may not need to travel across the country a whole lot anymore. There could be some good savings for companies that might be able to be reinvested back into the community, long-term type goals. So
exactly. I think that when businesses realize how much money they're saving, and people realize how much just healthier a lifestyle they can have when they're not traveling so much, I think if we can take the virtual learning environment to this to a whole new level, then there's a real opportunity to serve both sides of the equation.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Mm-hmm. So my last question is, I always have, again, I thought it would go away, but it's still here. Okay. But I want to put a little storytelling pitch pitch on yours. If you had one piece of advice for a small business startup entrepreneur talking about storytelling, what would that be, Colleen?
I guess the one piece is really that it goes back to what I said before, is tell your true story. Don't be afraid. Fear holds us back from doing that. We're afraid that, well, what if people don't like that? Or what if we turn some customers or investors or employees off? Or, oh my gosh, we can't say that. I would really test those assumptions, because fear distorts perception and it'll hold you back. So if you need a storytelling consultant to help you out with that, if they truly understand story and they know how to write and craft these things, even better, but just get whatever help you need to test that assumption that, oh, we can't tell that story though. Because I think the most powerful stories are the authentic ones. If you can do that early on in your business, oh man, it can inform so much about what you're doing, who you hire, who you choose to do business with, how your culture is shaped in your business. I think that, the more concrete and true to your heart that you can get, the better your business is going to be.
I love it. That's great advice. I 100% agree with you, Colleen. And I really, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your knowledge, your story with our listeners. I mean, it's especially during this time, it's more important for people to make sure they're getting the correct message out and making sure their clients, whoever that may be, are knowing what's going on. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jade. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Again, thank you again, Colleen. And if Colleen Henderson, Perfect Pitch, if you need to click on her website, it is in the comments section, and she'll be able to help you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away and they will be answered. So again, thank you, Colleen. Thank you, everybody else. And I hope you have a safe and keep well. Yeah. Thanks, Jade. Bye-bye.